Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why remembering someone's name feels so much harder than remembering their job or what they talked about? Well, this new study might have a clue, and it has a lot to do with how our brains decide what is worth remembering. Imagine you meet a dozen new people at a party. Do you try to remember every single name with the same effort? Probably not. Our brains are pretty smart about this. They're constantly trying to figure out what information is most likely to be useful later on. This new research explores exactly that, how we strategically learn things, especially names based on how important we think that information is going to be in the future. And they looked at this in both young and older adults. So, what is the big idea here? Scientists have known for a long time that learning names is tough. It is harder than learning, say, someone's job or their hobbies, which is called semantic information. And this name learning difficulty seems to get worse as we get older. The researchers in this study wondered if part of the reason we're not great at learning names is because we don't always think they're that important to remember in the first place. Because our memory has limits, we might naturally focus our brain power on the things we think will be most useful. To test this, they created a clever experiment. They told young and older participants that they were going to watch some clips from a new television show about a group of musicians. Before watching, they'd get to learn about the 12 characters. The key part was how they presented the character's importance. They labeled each character as either a main character, a secondary character, or a bit part. This was meant to tell the participants how likely they were to see that character again in the show, basically the expected utility of remembering their name. So, participants looked at pictures of faces paired with names and the instrument they played. They also saw the importance label for each character. They could study this information at their own pace for up to 10 seconds per character, and they even got a second chance to review everything. Then, after a short break, they were tested. They saw the faces again and had to try and remember the name, the instrument, and the importance label. Now for the results. First off, the expected findings were confirmed. Young adults generally remembered more information than older adults. And as expected, people were better at remembering the instruments and roles, the semantic information, than they were at remembering the names. This fits with what we know about memory. But here is where it gets really interesting. The researchers found that across both age groups, people remembered information about the main characters and secondary characters much better than information about the bit parts. This effect held true for names, instruments, and even the importance labels themselves. This strongly suggests that people were indeed using a cost-efficient strategy. They were focusing their learning efforts on the characters they were told were more important, meaning they were more likely to see them again. And to some extent, they ignored the less important characters. It is like their brains were saying, why waste precious memory space on someone who is barely going to be in the show? However, the study also dug deeper and found that not everyone used this strategy the same way. When they asked participants afterward about their strategies, only about a third of them reported consciously using the importance labels to guide their learning. The other participants used different strategies or no specific strategy at all. And here is a crucial point. Those who did report using cost-efficient strategies, meaning they focused more on the important characters, actually performed better overall than those who didn't. This was especially true for recalling information about the main characters. This suggests that when people voluntarily apply this expected utility, thinking, it really pays off in terms of memory. Now, the study does have some limitations, which is normal for research. For instance, they relied on participants' self-reports about their strategies. What people say they did and what they actually did can sometimes be different. Also, they didn't directly tell participants to use the importance labels to guide their learning. They were just given the information. So, we don't know if everyone could benefit from this strategy if they were explicitly instructed to use it. Future research could explore this by directly telling people to focus on the important stuff and see how that impacts learning for everyone. What is really exciting is the implication of this for names. Even though names are hard to learn, the study found that people who were better at recalling semantic information, like instruments about important characters, were also better at remembering the names of those important characters. This implies that cost-efficient strategies could help us remember names, not just other types of information, especially when we believe those names are likely to be useful. It means that by focusing our limited mental energy on what matters most, we can potentially boost our recall for even the trickiest bits of information, like people's names. So, what does this mean for us in everyday life? It suggests that we are all, to some extent, strategic learners. We instinctively prioritize information that seems more relevant. For older adults who might worry about memory decline, this research offers a hopeful message. Instead of trying to remember everything, It might be more effective to be selective and focus on what you truly need to remember. This could be especially helpful when meeting new people. If you know you'll likely encounter someone again, consciously put a bit more effort into locking in their name and key details. It is about working smarter, not necessarily harder. This research highlights that our memory isn't just a passive recording device. It is an active, strategic system that constantly evaluates the potential value of information. And this evaluation process plays a significant role in what we remember, especially with difficult-to-learn information like names. It also makes you think about how we learn in general, whether it is studying for a test, learning new software at work, or just navigating social situations. Understanding how our brains prioritize information can help us learn more effectively. This study gives us a valuable insight into that process.